If I see you peering at my knees today, that will be fine, because the stole that I'm wearing is one that was made for me quite some time ago, with the symbols of communion on one side and the symbols of the Holy Trinity on the other. And you're invited, if you wish, to come and pick up the ends of the stole and have a good look and compare the two sides. I'm afraid the gold leaf now has worn off, a bit like the gold leaf has worn off me. But apart from that, they're still intact. And I use this particular stole usually when it's a high day or a holiday, or when on Trinity Sunday we are allowed to wear white or gold. And since it's halfway between the two, I can wear it quite happily. Those passages don't do much good for us, do they? They are so short that they give us no clues, very little to go on. But if we don't find anything in them, what do we find in the rest of the Bible? Just to remind you, of course, in the Old Testament we have the story of creation, and then really the turbulent history of mankind or humankind's relationship with God. There are many other things there as well, but that's the main thrust of the Old Testament. The main thrust of the New Testament is really in two parts. First of all, the life, the death, the resurrection of Christ, in other words, his life story, and then Paul laying down the basis for our belief in him as being fully human and fully God. So far, so good. But where does the Bible mention the Trinity? The answer is, if you're looking for the word, you won't find it. It's not there. But actually the Trinity is there if you know where to look and you look closely enough. But this gospel reading that we've just had gives us the clue. It says, they came and they worshipped, but some doubted. So this, then, is a document of faith. It's a document that is supposed to encourage others towards faith. It's written in faith, and it invites others into faith. But how are we going to get there? The answer is to be found in the Bible itself, but also in the life of the church. We find Father, Son, and Spirit there the whole time. And in fact, actually, we often keep bumping into the Holy Trinity without necessarily realizing it. Go back to the story of the creation, and you find that the world is made by God, Father and Son, but the Spirit of God moves on the waters. So they are all three there, but you have to look quite hard to find them. You find the Spirit at work throughout the Old Testament, speaking to the prophets and through the prophets, giving them the words of God that they need, the words to encourage others to turn back again to God if they've turned away. And in the New Testament, in the stories of Jesus, we find that right from the moment of his conception, there is the Holy Spirit overshadowing the Virgin Mary. So right from the beginning, God the Son, sent by his Father from heaven, is conceived by the power of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is there too at the moment of his baptism, there too in the wilderness, there too at the moment that his ministry begins, there too throughout his life. And in that moment of desolation on the cross, when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The Holy Spirit hovers not very far away, and the Father's heart is in pain, and the Father is, as far as we can tell, in tears at being cut off for the moment from his beloved Son, in whom he is well pleased. But Jesus has to live a fully human life and die a fully human death, and he does so that we can stand in the presence of God with no doubt whatsoever. So, The Holy Trinity is there, and the seeds of it are there to be found in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And within 50 years of the death of Christ, the word Trinity was beginning to be talked about as the distinctive roles of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit were unwrapped. But how do you actually understand the Trinity? Why do we need those three? Well, as you can imagine, with a concert coming up fairly soon, music has been much in my mind at the moment. There is much power to be had in a single line of music, sung or played. It can be hugely powerful. It's above the power just simply of speech. It elevates language to a new level. But then try adding to it some other notes. Because if you add the other notes as well, you begin to get harmony. And when you get harmony, several notes sounding at once, you begin to get the full richness and understand the full richness. When you're growling away in the back line of the basses, it's sometimes difficult to hear what the other voices are doing, but you know you've got to stick to your part for the sake of those who are listening and hopefully enjoying what's being sung. So, threefold. Can we find three things in music? Can we find three things in ourselves? I think the answer is yes. Because music is written in dots and tadpoles that you may or may not understand. Then it's made, and then it's heard. Or if you like, it's composed, and then performed, and then enjoyed. And all three of those aspects are necessary to make it a complete experience. If we are in harmony with God, we have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and then we have to stick to our part. We, as the church, are sent by Jesus to go out into all nations and to baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. If we are to do that, we have to understand, we have to believe, we have to put our faith in God in order that God will take us by the hand and lead us out. We are caught up in God's song of love in the church. And so let us, for the next 21 Sundays at least, if not all year round, enjoy the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All of us have three aspects to us. The outside, which you can see, the internal life which we live, the personality and the character, which allows us to be talked about behind our backs.